If you are a small business owner who's looking for both an affordable and alternative way to offer quality health insurance to your employees, then this podcast interview is for you. Today, I have one of our trusted partners, Mr. Chris Estep, with us from Ameriflex. He is the Vice President of Sales for the Midwest. Chris, will you say what's up to everybody real quickly?
Yeah, what's going on, everybody? Happy to be here.
Yeah, so glad to have you here today, Chris. And what we wanted to do, Chris, is really just cover this program called an ICHRA, or this plan called an ICHRA, and really what is it? How can it benefit small and how can it benefit small businesses, across the country? So let's start here, because here's what I'm finding out as I'm working with small businesses is a lot of them don't really want to be in the insurance business anymore. And they're just really blown away how traditional group rates are skyrocketing. And I'm just finding many small business owners wanting to get out of that, but they can't, because if they do, then they won't be able to retain those quality employees that they've had, right? Because that's a big deal now today, companies offering health insurance. So let's start here. What is an ICHRA? Can we start there?
No, absolutely could start there. An ICHRA is, when you really break it down, the acronym of an ICHRA stands for Individual Coverage HRA, right?
Exactly.
It's a way for employers to offer benefits to their employees, whether it be for the first time coming into the space, wanting to offer something for their employees, or a group coming off a traditional medical plan who's really tired of getting hammered by those premiums year over year. This allows employers to set forth a budget or an allowance for each employee to help cover medical premiums. And what it does for the employees is it allows them to go out and enroll in a plan that best suits them individually or their families. So no longer are the employees having to contort into a group health plan that doesn't fit them. Now they go pick a plan that fits them. And the beauty of all of this is it creates a lot of budget predictability and flexibility for employers, and it creates a lot of choice for the employees. So it's a really aggressive benefits package here that doesn't break the bank.
Yeah, because a lot of these small business owners watching this today is they're used to traditional group plans, right? So you've named some of the pros, but what really makes an ICHRA a game changer? Is it what you've already said? It's customizable, right, for the employees. But as you well know, a lot of small business owners don't like change. So what are some other game changer benefits from moving or possibly transitioning over to an ICHRA?
Well, I think the biggest one really for the employer is that budget predictability. Now you have a plan that you don't have to wait till the end of the year to find out how much more you're going to have to pay. Oftentimes when employers look down this path of either coming off a traditional medical plan, they see a premium increase year over year. I had a group just a couple of weeks ago, 95% increase in just 1 year. Year before that, they had 15%. So if you're really tracking that, it starts to add up and it just becomes not really affordable anymore. So employers that are getting just shackled by that cost, this allows an avenue for them to journey down. And depending on the size of the group, it allows for a lot of flexibility in that budget. So no longer are you having to kind of answer to that invoice from the group medical plan. Now it's more so, what can we budget for our employees? There are some affordability aspects of this thing where we, as Ameriflex, we can help out with understanding that budget and understanding the funding's perspective of it. But really, it's choice for the employer. It's choice for the employees. It's the only plan out there that is truly as flexible as this.
So how does this ICHRA give employers more control over their budget without sacrificing employee choice? Because those are two big factors when we're coming to looking at possibly transitioning over to an ICHRA.
No, that's a great question. I think, there is no sacrifice there, because once the employer, they can get back the affordability census to understand what is out there from a cost perspective for the employees. And really, affordability is dictated off that lowest cost silver plan available to each employee. So once they get that back, they know as the employer, hey, I can offer a set budget to my employees and it will still be affordable, but it's also affordable for us, right? So it allows them to cross-check not only their budget, but also the employee's budget. And for the employer, it creates a really good retention base for your employees. Because if you think about it, when you're on a medical plan, employees are having to contribute their funds to pay for that as well too. You switch to an ICHRA model, no longer is that the case. It's an instant pay increase for your employees, because unless they so choose to further contribute to the ICHRA, they don't have to. So now it's an employer funded plan that's also cheaper for the employer in most cases. And now it's also an increase for those employees. So you're creating this package that's going to be great for your employees, not only just for choice, but also from a cost perspective too.
Yeah, and one question that really pops into mind as you're talking, you use the terminology silver plan. That is what a terminology from the marketplace, Affordable Care Act, formerly known as Obamacare. Is the ICHRA only good to work with marketplace plans, or do you see it work with other type of insurance plans?
It could work with, any type of insurance, but as long as it's an individual policy, the employee can go enroll in it, whether it's on exchange, off exchange. There's just a
Okay.
wide variety of plans available to employees, and really, that's a really cool aspect of it. When you dive into that enrollment piece of it, you'll see just how many plans are available, and it's truly just allowing the employees to pick something that's going to better suit them. And the cool part about all this is, next year, let's say they just didn't like the plan they were in that previous year, they could switch to a new plan. They're not shackled to a contract year or multi-year contract with these policies. So it allows kind of change until you can find a plan that best suits you. You need to scale it up. You can scale it up as the employee and as the employer. If you need to scale it back down, you could do the same thing too. This is the only plan out there that allows for this.
And the other thing I'm thinking of is popping in my mind as a small business owner myself is what type of tax advantages, if any at all, come along or come with an ICHRA plan if I choose to do so or implement one as a small business owner.
No, it's a great question. It's a pre-tax benefit. So you get the same
Okay.
tax benefits as you would by offering a pre-tax plan. So those FICA savings come into play there. So there are some tax savings associated with it. And if employees can decide to contribute from their own funds on a pre-tax basis, they also get the tax savings on top of that.
Yeah, this is a little bit longer question, but I want to read it here from my notes because I want to make sure that we tackle this. It says, can you walk us through how an ICHRA might be more inclusive or flexible for diverse workforces like part-time, remote, or seasonal staff?
Yeah, I think that is a really big thing to look at, because oftentimes when employers make changes, right, if they're on a medical plan, they're usually not offering something to the part-time employees or seasonal employees or anything like that. Now this plan allows for the employer to include those employees without breaking their bank. And you can even get creative as well too, from a perspective of maybe you want to keep the group plan for the full-time employees, but you want to offer
Right.
something to part-time employees. Well, that is a permissible class by the IRS. So you can class out your organization that way, offer your part-time employees the ICHRA account, and now they can also take advantage of those benefits. So now you're further increasing your recruitment status within that space for your company. So it's really, really flexible for not only just full-time, but also part-time as well.
So, what type of impact does ICHRA have when it comes to reducing compliant risk or avoiding renewals or unexpected cost hikes?
Yeah, with renewal, you're no longer, it's not that, big gloom waiting over you towards the end of the year where you're waiting to find out, oh my gosh, how much do we have to budget for that? With ICHRA, policies don't really go up too much because they're individual plans, so the risk for them is not as
Sure.
great, so the increases aren't nearly as high. So the employer knows if they set a budget, depending on their group size, they could typically keep that budget laterally year over year. So they'll know what that looks like. Obviously, the outliers would be those larger groups that are 50, more than 50
Mhm.
full-time employees. But we can help with understanding that affordability year over year ahead of time. So now you can really control your cost budget from there. And from a compliance standpoint, when you partner with folks like Ameriflex, or pretty much just Ameriflex within this, we take care of all the compliance needs within the plan. So now it's really just completely covered. And as the employer, you're just establishing a budget for your employees to which we can help out with. And now once it's set it and forget it in a way.
Yeah, and I think you bring up a good point. I know we're going to talk about this later in the interview, but this is where our partnership with you comes into play, right? Ameriflex is there to coach, to provide, to help lay all this out. and to make it a very seamless process because, as a small business owner, they already have a million and one things on their plate. And they're like, man, this insurance thing is already overwhelming. It's confusing. I mean, I'm talking to business owners usually weekly across the country, and they're just trying to figure this whole insurance thing out. And the last thing they want is one more thing on their plate. So talk about that. I know we're putting the cart before the horse here a little bit, but go on and talk about that, how Ameriflex can come in and help with that.
Yeah, I mean, with us, we deal with this space all the time, right? So we're the subject matter experts in it. So we want to come in and educate not only just the employer, here's what this plan is, here's how it works, but also your employees. Oftentimes
Sure.
if you make this change, the employers are going to be left wondering, how does this plan work? I've never had to deal with insurance before. Why am I having to start now? During open enrollment times, a lot of we're asked to be brought in to do presentations to explain, here's how this ICHRA works, here's the benefit for you guys as the employees, and here's how your portal works, here's how you can upload things. We do all of that for the group, and then we also do that for the employer, establishing affordability for them. And that's a really quick and easy process,
Yes.
understanding the cost of everything. And even if they wanted to let us know what you're currently paying, because oftentimes we can look at this affordability and tell you this is still a savings. I mean, oftentimes we have case studies that showcase the costs that we've saved groups that come on board with an ICHRA. And with Ameriflex, from a compliance standpoint, with our ICHRA package, we include all the compliance documents. That's your SPD wrap document, which is required by the IRS. Yeah, it's your federal notices. If you're a 50 full-time equivalent employer, that's required, but that's included within our package. And Cobra, an ICHRA is an individual plan, but it's still considered a group plan by ERISA standpoints. So it is still a Cobra eligible plan. So we include that as well at no additional cost within our ICHRA package. So we take care of everything for you. And then we also include packages for your employees, with whether it's a care navigation app that we include to all employees, which gives them 24/7 access to both doctors and care physicians within their area, which can answer small things, cold, flu, allergies. But if you need to see a specialist, they simply log on. That care navigator will be able to pull up all the in-network and out-of-network options available to that employee, and then showcase the cost for that visit, procedure, or scan at every single location. And that comes at no additional cost within this plan. So no longer is it, I don't know where to go. We showcase that for you, and that's completely taken care of at no cost.
Yeah, and I think that's a big value add, right? Because like I said, small business owners are already overwhelmed, with a whole bunch of other things. And to have someone to come alongside, kind of coach, educate, be there, lock arms with them and make sure that they're staying compliant, but at the same time offering the good coverage for their employees, and their employees are staying educated. I just think that's amazing. So one question that pops into my mind is, I'm thinking, well, some employers or small business owners may have a fear of the individual market, right? They may be or apprehensive to go that route because they think that maybe the coverage is not as good. Would you talk to them and reassure them that they can find good coverage through these ICHRA plans?
Oh, absolutely. It's not a watered down policy out there in the individual space. There's hundreds of plans out there, and depending on some states, you can find HMOs, PPOs out there, bronze, silver, gold. Really breaks down everything for them. It's not anything lesser than a group policy. It's just that indication that this is an individual policy. So it's not going to be anything that your employees are going to be suffering by switching to this. It's a plan that's going to give them the same level of coverage, sometimes even greater coverage, just at a much lower cost.
Yeah, what's interesting you say that, as I met with a small business owner a couple of weeks ago. Now, they only had about 2 or 3 employees, and they chose not to go this route specifically. But what's interesting to me is these people working on a farm, and they had no coverage whatsoever, which is scary in itself. And I'll be honest with you, Chris, I run into a lot more small business owners themselves and their employees who have no health coverage whatsoever. And with the cost of how astronomical the cost of medical costs can be, one bad situation can really almost bankrupt you, if you will. And so not having coverage. And I'm glad that you brought that up, because it is a lot more affordable. We were able to get these people coverage for literally under $100 per month. Now, I don't preach that because that's a specific situation, but they were blown away that they were able to get medical and RX and vision and dental and some other ancillary products. So that brings up a question in my mind: is the ICHRA good not only for the healthcare plan, but is it good for other ancillary products like dental and vision, or if they wanted to add that to the plan?
Yeah, absolutely. The ICHRA model is not just covering those medical premiums. This gives the employer another avenue of being flexible. If they want to have it just to cover medical premiums, sure, you could do that. But you want to cover medical premiums plus vision and dental, you could do that. If you want to cover medical, dental, medical premiums, and then on top of that, 213D expenses, kind of like an FSA would allow, you can do that as well. You have that flexibility to do this. And the beauty is we operate the plan based on how you set it up. If you tell us it's just for these medical premiums, the employee can't go and do anything else with the funds, even if they have an overage in the budget. So this allows even more further flexibility within this.
So that brings another question to mind: is the ICHRA only for like small business owners? Because that's primarily who I work with across the country. Or does it scale well for like larger teams as well?
No, yeah, that's the common misconception there. ICHRAs have always been thought to be just for those smaller groups, but in reality, when you look at the numbers, the largest adopters of an ICHRA policy are those larger groups, those ALE groups, those groups that have more than 50 full-time equivalent employees. They're adopting it, and you're seeing more and more entities getting into it. You would never have thought just a couple years ago that government contracts would be getting into an ICHRA. We have city contracts coming to us looking for ICHRAs too.
Wow.
So yes, it is a great model for those smaller groups, but it's also a great model for everything because when you look at the numbers of it, companies that switch to an ICHRA model, just based on the recent polls, there is an 86% retention rate of those groups sticking with an ICHRA year over year after that too. So once they get in it, they stick with it because they see the savings. And it's always that fear of the unknown. You just have to dive in to explore this, and you'll see that it's not as scary as people would think.
Yeah, but the good news is because of our partnership with you at Ameriflex, I think it's less scary when I can call an expert like you and you can educate and coach me through this whole process. I can tell you my needs. I can tell you what I'm looking for my employees. And you guys come and go, okay, when you do X, Y, Z, I think that makes it less scary, in my opinion, as a small business owner, having a partnership
Absolutely.
like that. Yeah.
Yeah, we're here to really just kind of calm folks down into this fear. You get the interest into it, and then once you start exploring it, we'll explain it to you in whatever way we need to showcase how simple this process is, and then showcase just that this plan will work for your employees. I think that's where a lot of HR folks worry, right? Obviously, they want to save money, but they want to do right by the employees oftentimes. So
Yeah.
showing them what all comes with this for the employees is big. And there's so many things that our package has included within it, whether it's lifetime ID theft protection for the employees or health lock that for the first year will backdate to see if they ever overpaid for their group policy and get that reimbursed each employee. We add a lot of stuff on here specifically for the employees, but it also benefits the employer. A happy employee staff is a quiet HR office.
Well, and I think that's why. Well, I know I've been having conversations about this because, like, just the other day, I had someone who has a company, and they're losing valuable employees because they don't offer any kind of benefits at all. And so, we're beginning that process because I told them it's a lot more affordable than you think it is. But nowadays, that is a game changer to be able to provide quality benefits. And a lot of people just don't know what they don't know, Chris. And like you said, I think a lot of times they think it's way more expensive than it really is because they are used to that traditional group plans. And by the way, just to be very clear for all those watching, I'm not knocking traditional group plans. I'm just saying this could be a great alternative. And a lot of people base a lot of these fears or apprehension on traditional group rates. Would you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, group plans obviously have their place, and they'll always have their place. You
Sure.
just always want to have a backup, right? Something in your utility belt because you get that rate come back increase. at some point it turns into enough's enough with that increases. But some policies are great, from a group perspective where it's not increasing for them. And I have no quarrels with group plans because we deal with a lot of groups that have group policies too. But to have that education, see if it's a fit, try it on. We'll talk it out with you, and we're happy to do all of these steps with you. And then at the end of the day, you decide this isn't a fit for you. Well, then at least everyone got the knowledge out there, right? Because it may not be a fit now, but it could be a fit next time. But the
Yeah, and to kind of
employers.
put the go ahead. Sorry.
No, no. I was just gonna say the employers really shouldn't fear having these conversations.
Yeah, and once again, I'm putting the cart before the horse here, but I mean, all this initially is at no cost, right? Like if they want to do an audit and a census and review their particular whatever, what kind of cost is associated with that?
Yeah, if they want to just have the conversation with us, there is no obligation to have this conversation with us by any
Okay,
means. If you come to Ameriflex and you say, I'm kind of journeying down this path of an ICHRA, can we have a conversation about it? Yeah, we'll sit down with you. We'll figure out what your current needs are, what you're currently paying. We'll give you a scope into, as long as we can write you a formal proposal, we can also create an affordability census for your employees, showcasing what the cost would be should you have to meet affordability. We can explain the affordability rules to you on that call. We can walk you through from whole A to Z, and you don't have to pay us anything. But if you give us the green light, then we'll go through with the proposal
gotcha.
process, and you would already have known the cost going into that.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to clarify that because I think that takes the scary out of it even more, right? That like as a small business owner, you want to have this conversation, especially when you can get the education you need to keep and retain the high value employees that you need to retain. I know we've talked a lot about here in the last 20, 25 minutes, but what are some other things, or what do you think most employers misunderstand about the ICHRA today? Is there something we didn't cover that you go, hey, I need to throw this out there?
I think a lot of times what they really misunderstand is the whole funding perspective of it. A lot of
Mhm.
employers fear about that, right? They think,
Right.
previously with a group budget, they didn't have to pre-fund anything. And they're worried this ICHRA sounds really complex from a setup perspective. Now I have to come up with a budget for all my employees and I have to pay that out each month. Well, the beauty of this whole process, and if you partner with Ameriflex, is there is no pre-fund required for it. We as Ameriflex, we front all the funds for your employees. You tell us the amounts, we'll fill it into their accounts for them. We streamline that whole payment process with automatic payment capabilities for your employees, and we pay out all the claims. We only invoice the employer when funds are used. So it's not anything required day one. It helps for that budgeting perspective because now you have a longer timeline, but you can get your account set up with us. So that's the biggest fear I have that most groups have when they come to us is, what is the first month's check going to look like? Do I have to pay a bunch up front? You don't. I mean, we take care of all that for your employees.
Yeah, and I mean, once again, I sound like a broken record, but it just really takes all the scary out of it, right? Like, if you're watching this today and you're a small business owner, my contact information is below in the video description. Reach out to me and let's go ahead and start having this conversation because I promise you, it's going to be more beneficial to you than you realize, right? And by the way, before we go into the second half of this interview, take a moment to hit the like and subscribe button for us. This just helps us get this information out to other small business owners like yourself because they need to know about these plans. So we've talked a little bit about what's an ICHRA, how does it work, and other things. Now I kind of want to focus more on Ameriflex. I know we've talked a couple of things about Ameriflex, but let's talk about even more in depth. Is there anything else in regards to what type of unique experience that they would have in regards to supporting the employers and brokers during the implementation? Like, in other words, if that someone came to me and then we set up a talk and we get a census and of knowing who's wanting us to be covered, what they're looking for. Tell us about that unique experience. I know we've touched a little bit upon it, but is there anything else that we need to know?
Yeah, I mean, outside of the added benefits from like the care navigation and the ID theft protection, but with Ameriflex, we truly take white glove service to heart. Oftentimes in this space, carriers they get a little too big for their own ego, and they just start outsourcing a bunch of stuff, whether it be inbox, just a general inbox for questions and inquiries for employees. Here at Ameriflex, every single group with us is assigned a dedicated implementation manager who helps them walk through the entire setup process from A to Z,
Right.
understand their plan design, what's being covered, understanding their administrative portal. But then even further than that, every participant has our participant service team, which is here 6 days out of the week, so that they can reach out to them. And does not matter the language. We can respond to them, whether it's call, live chat, or email. We track the metrics down to the second it takes for them to pick up those calls, answer those emails. So if at any moment you're ever curious about our response metrics, unlike all the other carriers in the space, we put ours on our homepage of our website because we're really proud of our response metrics. We have a 98% retention rate of our clients year over year. We have the highest net promoter score in the industry by about 4 times the industry average. And I joke with folks, you see a lot of our competitors boasting, hey, we have a 64 net promoter score. That is still failing by school records, if I recall. It's been a couple of years, but with us, it's an 87.9. And that score is generated from a negative 100 on up to 100, and how likely employees are to refer us to another company. So we stand at the forefront of our metrics because we truly get back to our clients. That's how we maintain this high promoter score, high retention rate. And that's something you just won't get with anyone else. We're truly there to answer questions, dispel any issues they may be having. And as a sales rep, I'm also involved with all our groups. We're not just going to sell and run. We stay attached to it. We want to make sure that the group's going well and that you stay with us year over year.
Yeah, it sounds like you guys are very hands-on when it comes to, compliance support and just do the whole process, because many TPAs are self-service, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, a
So
lot
it
of
sounds like
TPAs
you're
are self-service with these compliance reports, and with our compliance documents, yeah, it's a template that you fill out. But if you ever hit a wall, you just don't know where to go from there. You're confused about a couple of questions. Once you filled out as much as you can, just reach out to us. Let us know. We'll set up a call. Our compliance team will be on the call with you, walk you through the entire compliance setup, answer any questions you have, and then once that's done, they'll file it for you. So they take care of all that. And that's really the testament to Ameriflex too. We'll do that for any other product too, whether it be the ICHRA setup or anything else.
Yeah, when it comes to employers staying compliant with the IRS, right, meeting their requirements and staying compliant, you've already talked about some of that throughout our interview today. Is there any other kind of tools that maybe we didn't touch on that you want to go back and just revisit?
Yeah, I think we touched on a lot of it, from the affordability calculation, the SPD wrap, the federal notices. If you have employees that are contributing their own funds on a pre-tax basis, we'll just write them a Section 125 plan to go along with that. We do help out by letting employers
Right.
know if you do set up a Section 125 with your ICHRA account, your employees can only shop off exchange. That's just an IRS ruling. But we do communicate that. So that way, this is things that employers don't know when they go into this. So that's why we're the experts in that field. We'll address them and kind of hold their hand through this whole process, make sure they stay in compliance. And that's a big aspect of it. And if any compliance documents are due to be renewed, we reach out the next year to let them know, hey, it's time to renew. Have you made any changes to this? We're not just going to charge you a fee. We're going to see if there's anything that you need to make any updates to. The beauty about all this, if you need to make an update to your SPD wrap with us, it's just $100 to make that update. That's all it is. But the first year is covered within this ICHRA model. So the next year's first updates, you're not going to be charged for it. We'll make that update for you. But the second year you're with us, yeah, it'll just be $100 to make any updates to that document.
Yeah, as we get ready to wrap up today, give us some examples, like of a group. Share what you can share, obviously, but give us an example of a group that made a switch, used your help, and what that outcome was. If like I said, whatever you're able to share on that.
Yeah. So we had a couple of groups that I worked with out in Kansas City.
Okay.
And they were a franchise. It was a franchise nursing home. They had a slew of them. I think there was about 15 of the locations. At the previous time, they weren't really offering any benefits. They were losing staff left and right. That's just how it was going. spoke with their broker about, hey, I think this ICHRA model would work out because when you work with a franchise, and I know this just because my parents and my family have owned several franchises. As I grew up, I worked with one for 10 years. You don't want to offer benefits, group benefits, because it's so costly for a small group to do this.
Right.
So now that ICHRA is around, we introduced ICHRA to them, this care navigation, all of that into it. And they ended up placing I think it's around 20 of their nursing homes. They placed an ICHRA model with all 20 nursing homes. And to this day, we put that in last year. There has not been any terminations within that space. The employers are actually adding to their staff. And it also gave them flexibility for their seasonal folks, because a lot of times it's a seasonal kind of space. The ICHRA model allowed that employer flexibility. And then we do have some other case studies where it was a Minnesota group back in 2019 when ICHRAs were actually just brand new. We administered an ICHRA with them, and we saved them, I think, just from the employer's perspective, there was around a 120% savings within that space. Wow. Just because of how much they were overpaying. And then the employees was an instant, I think it was around $235 a month savings for the employees with that ICHRA model. So there's a lot of good case studies out there that we can, that we've done, that we've seen. And like I said, when you groups switch to an ICHRA, they typically stay with it. They don't make changes after that.
Yeah. Yeah, even just, here locally in some of the companies, small businesses that I'm working with, it blows my mind, the savings, right? Because like I said, a lot of them just don't know what they don't know. I know we've covered a lot today, and we've tried to give all of you watching today about a 30,000 foot view. But Chris, as we close today, is there anything that I'm overlooking that I didn't ask that maybe we just need to mention why we're on this episode today?
No, I think you covered a lot. The questions were really pointed and flowed really well through this, and allowed us to cover the full scope of everything. Last thing I would just mention is, if you're wondering, from the employee perspective, how they pay their premiums month to month, is this going to be a big burden for them? Like I mentioned earlier, with Ameriflex, we have accounts set up for all employees. It's essentially a account number and a routing number that we've created for each and every single employee. So when they sign on with their policy, they just provide that account number and routing number during the setup process. And then when the payment's due, it's automatically paid. So the employee doesn't have to log in every single month. They don't have to incur the expense and submit for reimbursement or any of that. They can automatically get it paid out. So now that's peace of mind too. So that's the last key part of this. But outside of that, I think we've covered a lot of good stuff there within it.
Yeah, and I just want to give some practical baby steps here as we close out today. And by the way, if you're wanting to take a deeper dive for your particular business, then reach out to me. My contact information is in the video description below. I'll also put my number on the screen, or you can go to my website. You can reach out to me. We can begin those conversations. And then I bring in Ameriflex with that, and we partner with you together. So let's say someone reaches out to us on this video. Let's just end with some practical baby steps here. Someone reaches out to me and they say, hey, Rob, I'm interested. What are some of my initial first baby steps I need to take to get some of this information or to get this process going?
Yeah, just all we would need to start this process is just the stuff we need to create an account for this individual to propose it, right? So it's just going to be the name of the group, address, number of employees, effective date that they would be possibly looking at. I'm not going to hold you to the fire on that effective date. Right. But then ultimately, any pain points you're having, right? It's always the pain points. This is what drives the conversation. I like to always ask, what brings us to this conversation today? And that's really what it's going to be. And oftentimes it's probably going to be premium increases, or I'd like to offer something for my employees for the first time. Then just reach out to us. Fluid with our schedule. We'll set up a time. We'll dive into it from top to bottom, answer any questions you may have. And then we can also provide some cost, affordability census for you guys to further understand that.
Yeah, I just love this process because they get to partner not only with our agency, but also with all the expertise of Ameriflex, and just really kind of keep it as seamless as possible and make sure they're educated and handheld, pretty much along the way, to keep them going. Well, Chris, I appreciate you, man, dropping some of your knowledge today and sharing your expertise with our audience. And once again, if you're interested in taking a deeper dive, call us on the number on the screen, reach out to the, that's below. I got my contact information there. We would be more than happy to at least just have an initial conversation. I can't stress this enough. There's no initial cost to you, but we can't help you if we don't get the information we need in order to do that. So God bless you guys, and we'll see you on the next episode.